Insulin is a peptide hormone that has been used for years to control blood sugar levels. Produced by beta cells in the pancreas, insulin works through a variety of different pathways to lower glucose levels in the blood. As you may already know, insulin is primarily used in the context of diabetes, and several different types of insulin exist. Each type of insulin has its own unique purpose, and it's critical as a healthcare professional to understand their differences. It can be hard to remember what insulin type does what, so in this video, I'll give you my visual mnemonic to help you master all the insulin types. First, notice all the insulation around us. Yeah, we're standing inside a newly built house. It looks like they're still working on fixing this insulation though, because you can still see the insulation peeling from the wall. Anyhow, all this insulation here helps me remember insulin. Get it? Insulation for insulin? All this insulation is here to anchor us to this scene on the types of insulin. But before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to step back to talk about why we have different preparations in the first place. As you already know, insulin and glucagon work in balance to keep blood sugar levels relatively stable. And so, in diabetics, a long-acting or constant amount of insulin might be expected to balance out the effects of glucagon, thereby keeping blood sugar at a stable basal level. However, one of the biggest challenges to this stability happens after you eat. You see, right after you eat, there's a big bump in blood sugar that's called the postprandial peak. This occurs when the sugar in your food is dumped into the bloodstream. In order to manage this bump, your pancreas needs to respond by providing a rapid bump in insulin levels. So in diabetics, we need a rapid-acting insulin to manage these postprandial peaks, as well as long-acting insulin to counteract glucagon throughout the day. In addition, note that most insulin preparations are administered subcutaneously, since taking insulin orally doesn't work. All of the hormone would be destroyed in the stomach before it has any chance of getting inside your bloodstream. Makes sense, right? Alright, back to the image. By now, you've probably been wondering what I'm doing here in this house. Well, I'm the house inspector. Some people even call me the house detective. One of my jobs is to check the insulation, and I'm not happy with the insulation I see. I mean, look at this piece of insulation peeling off the wall. We'll get back to me later, but for now, let's focus on the other actors in this scene. For starters, take a look at the construction worker who just came running in. Yep, he just barged through that front door. Yeah, these guys always come running when they see me. This guy saw me and came running, maybe to do some quick last-minute fixes on the insulation before giving me excuses about why the insulation wasn't completed yet. By the way, his rapid pace makes me think of rapid-acting insulin types. You know, because these drugs act the fastest. And this guy is definitely running fast. You would be too if your job was on the line. Next, notice what our rapidly running worker is holding. Yep, it's a bottle of glue. I guess he saw that piece of falling insulation and rushed in to glue it back onto the wall. Too bad for him, I've already taken note of this. Anyways, his glue coincidentally helps me remember glulisine, one of the rapid-acting insulin types. Get it? Glue for glulisine? Glulisine's action starts rapidly, and it begins lowering blood glucose levels within 15 minutes of administration. It reaches peak activity around an hour, and the total duration of action is just 3 to 4 hours. While these numbers should not be memorized, at least for step 1, what's important to know is that glulisine is one of the fastest-acting insulin types out there. And that's why it's being held by a rapidly running construction worker. Got that? Let's move on. Next, take a look at what our rapidly running construction worker is holding in his other hand. Yep, it's a list, maybe a to-do list of everything he needs to get fixed before my inspection. That list looks pretty long. No wonder why he's so flustered to see me. By the way, this list is here to help you remember Lispro, another rapid-acting form of insulin. Yeah, Lispro's onset of action is also extremely rapid, and it starts to act within 15 minutes. Like glulisine, Lispro's action peaks around 1 hour in, and the total duration of action also lasts around 3 to 4 hours. Our third and final rapid-acting insulin can be summarized by this pile of asphalt right outside of our house. The construction worker has been using asphalt to pave the driveway outside of our house. This asphalt is here to peg the third rapid-acting form of insulin, aspart. Get it? Asphalt for aspart? Like Lispro and glulisine, aspart's onset happens within 15 minutes, with peak action around 1 hour in, and its action lasts about 3 to 4 hours. Not too difficult to remember, right? As we mentioned before, rapid-acting insulin analogs are ideal for managing rapid bumps in glucose, like the postprandial peaks after meals. Glulisine, Lispro, and aspart are perfect for this, as their activity starts fast and peaks in the first hour or so, right after subcutaneous injection. This means that diabetics typically inject these rapid-acting insulins right before eating, so that peak activity counteracts the sugar from their meal. Makes sense, right? Next, notice this short roll of insulation. Yep, this insulation job is definitely still in progress. This roll of insulation here should help you peg the drug regular insulin. Insulation for insulin, get it? Regular insulin is just straight up insulin. You know, the kind that comes from your pancreas. It hasn't really been modified in any way, which is why it's, regular. Anyway, regular insulin is a crystalline zinc form of insulin that is short-acting, just like our short insulation roll here. The typical onset of regular insulin is 30 minutes to 1 hour, and its peak occurs within 2 to 3 hours of subcutaneous injection. The duration of regular insulin is 5 to 7 hours. As a clinical note, regular insulin is used primarily in emergency contexts where rapid control of hyperglycemia is required, such as in diabetic ketoacidosis or hyperosmolar hyperglycemic states. When given intravenously, it's absorbed just as fast as the rapidly acting insulins. Of course, it works fast when you put it right into the vein. However, when regular insulin is injected subcutaneously, it actually forms hexamers that diffuse poorly into the bloodstream. This is why it's considered a short-acting insulin and not a rapid-acting insulin. So although it technically can be used to combat a postprandial spike, you are probably better off with the rapid-acting insulin. Again, think about regular insulin when you need to give insulin quickly by IV. Regular insulin is way cheaper than the rapid-acting analogs, so doctors in the hospital like it a lot, especially since most patients already have IV lines. Alright, now that we've gone over the short and rapid-acting forms of insulin, let's review the intermediate-acting insulin. Take a look at our pH meter here. This pH meter is being used to measure the acidity of the water in our home. We don't want anyone to be drinking water that'll make them sick, right? And as part of my job as the home detective, I have to check the water pH. Anyway, this pH meter is here to help you remember NPH insulin, which is an intermediate-acting insulin preparation. NPH insulin is one of the oldest formulations of insulin available and is basically regular insulin with protamine and zinc added to it, which prolongs the activity of insulin. But what does intermediate-acting mean anyways? It means that the NPH is in between short and long-acting insulin, the latter of which we'll be discussing very soon. As intermediate-acting insulin, NPH insulin's onset is within 1 to 2 hours, peaking in activity around 6 to 12 hours, and its duration lasts about a day. Again, these numbers are not that important. What's more important to know is that NPH acts much slower than the rapid-acting insulins. Its use has declined in recent years with the advent of newer, long-acting insulin analogs. Next, take a look at our housing investigator. Detective's hand over here. Our housing detective has just spent the entire day trying to make sure that everything in our new house is built and ready to go. Our detective should remind you of insulin detemir, which is our first long-acting insulin drug. Detective for detemir, get it? As a long-acting insulin drug, detemir's onset is within 1 hour, and its duration lasts longer than 1 day. That's one long-lasting drug. And let me tell you, every home inspection definitely takes a long time. For detemir, there's no peak of activity. Finally, let's review our last long-lasting insulin drug. As the house detective, I'm using a magnifying glass to inspect everything in this house to make sure it's safe to live in. The glare from my magnifying glass should help you remember glargine, which is another long-acting insulin. Glare for glargine, get it? Like detemir, glargine's onset is within 1 hour, and its duration is longer than 1 day. And like detemir, glargine has no peak in activity. In summary, just remember that long-acting insulins are used for maintaining blood glucose control. I think our detective's pretty spiffed about this house, and so are we. Before we call it a day, let's do a quick review of what we just talked about. Insulin is an anabolic peptide hormone used to treat diabetes, and its main function is to lower and control blood glucose levels. It comes in a variety of different preparations, each of which is used in different clinical contexts. Lispro, glulisine, and aspart are rapid-acting insulin analogs and are used prior to eating to combat the postprandial peak. Regular insulin is short-acting and is used primarily in the context of diabetic ketoacidosis. NPH insulin is intermediate-acting, but its use has declined in recent years with the advent of newer long-acting insulins. Glargine and detemir are long-acting insulin analogs and are primarily used to maintain blood glucose levels over a longer period of time. Man, I'm wiped. See you for our next video.